HFSS is not hard. The goal of this video is to cover all of the 5 HFSS designs while also parallelly trying to clear some misconceptions that we have with HFSS as a tool and to just show that it isn't as hard as it first seems out to be. If broken down in the right way and covered using the right framework, it can easily be understood as more intuitive than just mugging up numbers. And at the end of the day, it is actually just geometry and basic math that needs to be understood in the right way. I'll be using the word geometry quite a bit, but it is quite important and it is sort of the basis of HFSS as a tool. So before jumping into the geometry, we'll first look at this framework that I'm talking about. And this framework is how every single HFSS experiment or in design in general will follow. It is a few very common steps and one step that will change for every design. So we'll have a look at that. This is the framework that encompasses all HFSS designs. Like all of the designs will follow this one framework or this one flow, which starts with the HFSS startup, which is basically how you go from the desktop to the main working page. It's like 2 steps. The second is the design, which is actually 60% of the actual work. It obviously changes based on what you want to design. And it's easier to understand if broken down into 2 categories, which are shown here. The first one is stacked 2D structures, which is more of just stacking different 2D structures on top of each other to create the final design. And 3 of the 5 experiments, which is microstrip line, hybrid ring, and patch with optometrics, fit under this category. So all of these 3 have a very similar way or a very similar flow that they follow, and which we will be covering in the future part of this video. And secondly is the 3D structures. They don't have a very particular flow, but they are a bit more similar as compared to the 2D structures. After the design is done, after the main design is over, you have 4 steps which are common in every single design, which is, and it's all one step each. It takes less than 30 seconds. The first one is adding a port, or in some cases ports, depending on which design you have. Then you have to add a radiation box, which we'll explain why it's important so that it's easier to understand why we have to put this and not just look at it as a step to reach the final goal. The next is material assignment, which is basically whatever you have put in the design, you have to assign it the right material. This is very crucial because if you don't assign the material, or worse, if you assign the wrong material, then you will be getting terribly different results. And finally, an analysis setup. And after all of that is done, you just validate and simulate. These are the only steps that are required to be understood for HFSS designs as a whole. Now we will go right on to the first design, which is the microstrip line.